In 1986, I was serving as chairman of the Georgia Hospital Association. The office of president was vacant. We were faced with a leadership crisis. And I became acquainted with Joe well then. In the absence of a full-time president, we asked Joe if he would be willing to serve as acting president while we conducted a search for a permanent replacement. He agreed to do that. And we did interview and identify several qualified candidates for the office of president, but the executive committee realized that Joe was really the proper candidate. And on our recommendation, the board did name him as president of the association. And I think time and circumstances have demonstrated that that was a pretty wise decision.
I don't have to tell the people who've led this organization this, but they stumbled onto a jewel when they found him. It took some looking, it took some thinking, and I was involved in enough of that to know that it was not a casual decision. But that decision paid off for the hospitals in this state and for the physicians in this state in a way that we will very seldom ever appreciate.
When you get everyone participating, there's a lot of buy-in, and he's facilitated that. So to me, that's demonstration of a great leader.
Joe is constantly focusing on his team, and that I really admire about him. It is a lot about the leader in those types of positions, but Joe always gives credit to the team. He always, no matter what the accomplishment, talks about what the team has done. It's not about what his accomplishment is.
He doesn't need to take credit for anything. It's pretty amazing to me as I've thought about his retirement, and I can't say that I really ever saw him put himself in a position where he was trying to bring favor upon himself and get recognition for his role in something.
I think the other obvious thing about Joe is that I have to mention is he is smart enough to surround himself with great people. I mean, Joe has had a tremendous staff for as long as I can remember.
One thing that's tough in the job he's in, or has been in, is that he has had a new chairman every year. New personalities at the helm each time, but he was able to deal with that quite effectively over a very, very long period of time.
He's also had a great ability to deal with all of his chairmen, with all of our nuances and crazy ideas and type A personalities, and he's had an ability to work with them and to the end that we have an effective board and effective leadership, and we find that common ground that exists across the membership when oftentimes that common ground is very thin.
People could trust what he said, absolutely, and down at the Capitol, Joe's word was good, it was gold. And not many people can say that down at the Capitol.
The most important accomplishment that Joe Parker has brought the Georgia Hospital Association is the respect that we have, not only in the state of Georgia, but the entire country. Joe, as I've said before, is the face of GHA. He's trusted by political leaders, by his peers at the American Hospital Association, state hospital associations, and without question, Joe has given GHA a prominent position of respect in the country, and I think we owe this to Joe Parker.
I've seen him in meetings when things were tight, things were not agreeable, and he always maintains that cool, and he always comes back with some kind of a solution to end the problem if there's any way, and he's good at that. He's good at seeing both sides and that there's got to be a compromise somewhere.
We're going to miss most his credibility with elected officials and policymakers. I think he has such a long track record of fulfilling the commitments that he makes on behalf of our association, as well as realizing that there has to be a reasonable compromise in most cases.
Joe, many, many years ago, made a personal decision, and that was to marry a beautiful lady named Lynn,
And Lynn came on board, and Lynn has been a real ambassador, a real supporter of not only Joe, but of the association. She's a special person and a great asset to GHA too.
Lynn was always right beside Joe, carrying out the mission. How she put up with Joe, that's hard to understand, but no, Lynn is a great asset to Joe. They make a great team.
Joe's a consummate family man. You know, he and Lynn are extremely close. You see that anytime that you're around them. They have just a terrific relationship. They banter and kid each other, but you can tell there's a deep love and respect there.
It's true that Joe has had to be away a lot. Joe has traveled a lot. But I can honestly say I don't remember one thing that has been happening in Meredith or Nathan's life that needed a father that he wasn't here when it was needed.
We have a retreat or the annual meeting in the summertime, and I think we've been going to Amelia for most of the 27 or 35 years, and Joe was driving my wife and I to dinner and got lost in the way back from dinner, which was only about 500 yards from the hotel. So you'd think after 27 years driving around there, he'd know his way around, but we got lost. But it was enjoyable spending the extra time with Joe and Lynn in particular.
In terms of humor, I played golf with Joe several times, and any time you play golf with Joe, it's funny. He, and one time, I believe it was down at Lake Oconee, we were playing, and Joe did something with the golf ball that I've never seen before. We're on the tee box, and he hit the ball, and it actually went backwards. And I can't understand the physics of that.
I was thinking about it the other day, and I thought, you know, here's Obamacare on the horizon, and Joe's retiring. It's like he's handing his successor a stick of dynamite with a fuse lit. While Joe's off fishing over on some lake in Alabama, somebody else is going to be trying to cope with those problems.
Joe's realized over the last several years that as important as work is, there are many, many other things that are equally important in life. And I really think he's looking forward to having time to spend with Lynn, and their family, and their kids. And he's even talking about taking up golf, which, heaven help him, he needs all the help he can get.
Joe, yeah, he's an avid golfer. He's an avid golfer.
Based on Joe's golf game, I really don't think there's a whole lot in retirement for him in the area of golf, just as it is for me.
You got to be careful. You do keep the shield up on the front of the cart, and kind of watch your back if you're in front of him.
I think Joe's purpose was to head the GHA, the Georgia Hospital Association, and he discovered that, and he gave it his all. And what a wonderful, wonderful contribution that he's made to us through the association. I think Georgia hospitals are better because of Joe Parker, and by virtue of that, the state of Georgia is better because Joe Parker was the president of GHA for so many years.
Probably one of the most difficult parts of Joe's retirement is not going to be looking across the parking lot and seeing his car there, knowing Joe's here to dial up as a friend, or if and many times when we have issues we need to talk through. So Joe's going to be missed.
We all look at friends and we grade them perhaps unknowingly to friends and others, but Joe Parker comes in on almost anybody's list, certainly on mine, at the top of the list of people that I trust, that I like, that I enjoy, that I just model myself after.
I guess the final thing that I would remember about Joe is after my wife, Kathy, I would always consider Joe as my best friend.
So I knew him as from the regulatory side, from the trade association side, and then the board side. But the best of all these was my association with him as a friend. Joe has been a good, solid friend.